They thought they escaped. They lied. They betrayed. They left you standing in silence, and they walked away as if nothing happened. But life doesn't forget. It never forgets. Karma may not strike like thunder, but it always arrives. Quietly, invisibly, inevitably. You've seen it before. The one who mocked your loyalty now scrolling through empty nights, desperate for someone they can trust. The one who laughed at your tears, now crying into their own silence. The universe doesn't need applause to deliver justice. It works in whispers no one else hears, but they feel every day. And yes, there's a strange satisfaction in knowing that. But pause, because karma is not a stage where only they perform. Sometimes, what we suffer today isn't only because of them. It's the echo of seeds we ourselves once planted. Maybe not in this relationship, maybe not in this lifetime, but somewhere, we too have caused pain. That's why bitterness is dangerous. It becomes tomorrow's harvest. I'll confess something. In my younger years, I was proud. Too proud. I chased victory in every argument, trampled people's feelings, cut with sharp words, and thought it was strength. Back then, I didn't notice the hearts I hurt. But years later, when betrayal finally visited me, when trust collapsed under my feet, I realized this is what I once made others feel. That was my karma, and it humbled me. It forced me to grow. So yes, karma punishes those who wronged you, but it also teaches you. It reminds you, don't wait for their fall as your victory. If you hold on to hatred, you're planting another seed, one that will bloom into pain you don't expect. The true freedom is to rise so far beyond revenge that your very peace becomes proof. Today, I'll show you 5 silent punishments of karma. At first, they'll satisfy you because you'll see justice working. But then, they'll challenge you to reflect, to turn inward, to plant better seeds in your own soil. Because karma is not revenge, it's correction, not destruction, but restoration. And trust me, if karma ever sent instant notifications, half the world would turn off their phone in fear. Sign 1. The fake glow. The first sign that karma is already at work is when someone shines too brightly, too suddenly. At first glance, it looks like joy, but look longer. It burns from the inside out. I once knew a woman named Sophia. Stunning, intelligent. She had no shortage of men who treated her with real care. But to her, kindness felt dull, loyalty felt ordinary. What she craved was the electricity of applause, the intoxicating rush of being admired by strangers, the fleeting thrill of attention that cost nothing. So she turned away from those who loved her sincerely, brushing off the men who offered depth for the sparkle of those who only offered desire. Decades rolled on. Today, at 40, Sophia still posts her radiant smile online every week. New handbags, weekend getaways, photos from expensive restaurants. Always the caption, "Living my best life." But if you look closely, you see it. The faint distance in her eyes, the quiet fatigue in her expression when the camera blinks off. For all the glitter, she never found the one soul who could truly see her and stay. Now, don't mistake me. Not every smile is fake. Not every success is an act. There are people who live in true abundance, inside and out. And when they share their joy, you feel the difference immediately. It doesn't scream for validation. It radiates peace. Their light doesn't need an audience. It simply glows. That's the danger. Not in shining, but in performing. True joy doesn't care who is watching. Pretend joy only survives when it's being watched. Fake happiness works like theater. It seeks a stage. It calls for witnesses. You know what it reminds me of? Those people who post #blessed with a face so tight you can hear their jaw clicking. I've done it too, smiling for the photo, dying for the weekend to end. That's not joy. That's theater. It shouts, "Look at me, I'm fine." But real happiness doesn't audition. It doesn't beg for applause. It's steady, invisible, and free. And maybe you've felt it yourself. Scrolling through the highlight reel of someone who once hurt you, seeing them laugh with new friends, pose with someone new, celebrate victories that exclude you. Your chest tightens. You whisper, "Maybe they really are better off without me." But pause. No filter can hide emptiness. No staged glow can silence the conscience at night. Here's the deeper truth. People who betray genuine love often try to bury their guilt under noise. They run louder. They laugh harder. They post brighter. But that's not joy. It's escape. And escape is exhausting. Karma doesn't punish with lightning bolts. It punishes by letting someone act in their own theater until the mask weighs too heavy. That's why you should never envy what you see on the surface. A staged glow is often the first crack of inner ruin. And let's be honest, haven't we all done this at some point? Haven't you forced a smile while your heart was breaking? Haven't you laughed loudly at a party while a storm raged inside? I know I have. After my own collapse, I plastered smiles at dinners, convinced myself that if I looked strong, I would feel strong. But every grin cut deeper, because I knew the truth. I wasn't strong. I was bleeding silently. That was my prison. So when you see them shine too loudly, don't be fooled. It isn't victory. It's a mask. And masks are heavy. Eventually, they slip. Practice for you. The next time envy hits as you scroll through someone else's feed, stop and ask, do I know their nights or only their stage? Then turn your focus inward. Write down one thing you have today that needs no audience, something that gives you peace even if nobody claps. That is your real wealth. And if you catch yourself performing, don't drown in shame. Just pause, breathe, and whisper to yourself, I don't need to prove joy. I only need to live it. Reflection for you. Whose applause are you chasing? And what peace could you reclaim if you stopped performing altogether? Maybe you've felt it too, the sting of watching someone glow louder after they've broken you. If this part stirred something in you, pause for a moment and subscribe. Not for me, but as a reminder to yourself that true joy is never proven, it's lived. Sign 2. The quiet erosion. The second sign of silent karma is subtraction. Not explosion, not scandal, not thunder. Just a slow, quiet erosion. Life doesn't always punish with noise. Sometimes it simply begins to take away, bit by bit, until one day, a person looks around and realizes they are standing in the ruins of everything they thought would last forever. I remember my old partner, Rico. To me, he wasn't just a business ally. He was family. I trusted him with my vision, my sleepless nights, my secrets. There were years when I believed he was the one person I could lean on when the storm hit. But storms have a way of revealing what sunshine hides. When pressure came, I discovered the truth. Deals were made behind my back. Promises I staked my future on were sold for scraps. He once looked me in the eye like a brother, but behind closed doors, he cut deeper than any stranger could. And when the truth surfaced, he didn't flinch. He shrugged, almost proud, as if betrayal itself was a kind of victory. But life doesn't clap for betrayal. It doesn't reward deception with peace. It waits, like water dripping on stone, slow, steady, unstoppable. And then, little by little, it begins to subtract. One by one, people stopped trusting him. Calls went unanswered. Doors that once swung wide began to lock. At first, he told himself it was bad luck, a rough season, coincidence. But patterns always speak. And by the time he realized what was happening, the circle around him had shrunk to almost nothing. The very trust he mocked had abandoned him. That's how karma works so often, not as a strike of lightning, but as a gradual subtraction. The erosion begins quietly. A friend drifts away. A chance slips through your fingers. The silence deepens, until the noise of what you lost grows louder than any excuse you can make. And maybe, if you're honest, you've felt this too. I know I have. In my youth, when my ego ran ahead of my wisdom, I treated good people like they'd always be there. I thought their presence was permanent, their patience infinite. Until one day, they were gone. No confrontation, no final words, just absence. And the emptiness left behind cut deeper than betrayal. That too was karma, not punishment, but correction. Life teaching me what I had refused to see. The truth is simple. What we don't value, life eventually removes. Not to destroy us, but to wake us up. To strip away what we've taken for granted until we finally understand its worth. So don't wait for absence to be your teacher. Look around right now. Who stands by you quietly, without needing applause? Who shows up for you, not with grand speeches, but with steady presence? Those are your treasures. Write down 3 names, 3 people whose loyalty, support, or simple presence you would ache for if they disappeared tomorrow. Then do something radical. Reach out today. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Today. Send them gratitude. Gratitude is a shield against erosion, because once subtraction begins, it rarely stops. And when life starts taking away, you can't negotiate with it. By the time you notice the silence, it's already too late. It doesn't scream. It doesn't argue. It simply erodes until nothing is left but silence. Reflection for you. Who are you taking for granted right now? And what would it cost you if they vanished from your life tomorrow? Sign 3. The restless conscience. The third sign that karma is silently working is when the guilty mind cannot rest. No matter how bright the smile, no matter how carefully they erase your name from their stories, inside, the voice of guilt whispers. And whispers don't fade. They echo. They linger. They follow a person into the night when the world is quiet, into the pauses between conversations, into the silence of their own breath. One evening, Kai placed a letter into my hands. For those of you who don't know him, Kai is the quiet mentor who found me when my life had collapsed. A man of silence, yet each word he ever spoke cut deeper than sermons. His wisdom was never shouted. It was carved into the air with simplicity. The paper he showed me was old, yellowed around the edges, the handwriting jagged, as though each word was pulled through pain. The letter carried no name, but it needed none. Every line bled with confession. I betrayed you. I turned my back on the trust you gave me. I chose arrogance over humility, greed over discipline. For years, I have carried the weight of your silence. At night, I hear your voice inside my head, and it cuts deeper than any punishment this world could give. Forgive me, though I know you may never reply. Kai said nothing. He simply folded the letter, slipped it back into the drawer, and returned to his work. But I could see it in his eyes. He didn't need revenge. He didn't even need words. The man who wrote that letter was already living in his punishment. Not a prison with walls or bars, but a prison built of memory. A cage forged by conscience. And as I read it, a chill crept through me. Because I recognized that prison. I knew its walls, its silence, its suffocating air. The letter wasn't just his confession, it was my reflection. If you've ever watched one of my earlier talks on the behaviors of the weak, you may remember me confessing how I once feared being alone. That fear wasn't random. It came from the ghosts of my own mistakes. In my younger years, I hurt people with pride and carelessness. I spoke words that cut too deep. I walked away when I should have stayed. And though I pretended to move on, my conscience never did. I was haunted. Haunted so fiercely that I drowned myself in noise. Meetings, drinks, endless work, anything to avoid silence. Because silence forced me to listen, and listening meant facing the truth. I even tried falling asleep with the TV on, but you can't outshout your own thoughts forever. Trust me, I watched more late-night infomercials than I care to admit. And still, the guilt kept selling me the same old product. Regret, but eventually, there comes a night when all distractions fail. The music stops. The room empties. The phone goes dark. And there you are, left with yourself. That's when I faced it. I sat in the silence. I admitted my truth. I named my karma. And in that painful honesty, something strange happened. Peace. Not immediately, but slowly, like light seeping into a closed room. That's when I realized, freedom doesn't come from escaping silence. It comes from surviving it. So don't be fooled if someone who wronged you pretends they've forgotten. Trust me, they haven't. Karma doesn't need to shout your name through their lips. It etches you into their thoughts. You live there, rent-free, in the cracks of their conscience. Practice for you. Stop chasing closure from those who wronged you. Instead, write yourself a letter today. Not to them, but to you. Write every word you wish they had spoken. Seal it. Keep it. Because sometimes the closure you're begging for from another is the closure your own heart is waiting to give. Reflection for you. If your conscience were to write you a letter tonight, what would it say? And if those words echoed inside you, it's because we all carry letters we've never sent. If this letter touched you, share one line in the comments that you're ready to release. Writing it down isn't just speaking, it's the first step to freedom. Sign 4. The weight of unforgiveness. The fourth sign that karma is silently working is when trust collapses, not only in others, but in yourself. On the surface, it looks like strength. I don't let people get close. Everyone's fake. I only rely on me. But beneath that armor isn't wisdom. It's fear. And fear, born from old wounds, becomes the cruelest punishment of all. When I was a boy, my father left. No explanations, no final embrace, just absence. That empty chair at the table became louder than any argument. And though I didn't have words for it back then, it carved a wound so deep that I grew up wearing suspicion like armor. My heart repeated, "If my own father could abandon me, then anyone can. If blood isn't safe, nothing is safe." So I learned to scan every face for betrayal. Even when people showed kindness, I didn't believe it would last. When friends said, "I've got your back," a voice inside whispered, "For how long?" When a woman said she loved me, my heart whispered, "Until the day she leaves too." And because I carried that belief, when I married Mara, I did love her. But I never truly cherished her. Maybe because I had never learned what love without fear was supposed to look like. I had not been taught how to trust without suspicion, or how to give without holding back. Every time my father's memory rose, I muttered under my breath, "One day, she'll leave too." And fate, in its cruel patience, answered that prophecy. Mara walked away, and in that moment, I realized it wasn't only her choice that ended our marriage. My fear had been planting seeds of departure all along. The day I kept expecting finally came, because unforgiveness had already prepared the soil. That is the poison of unforgiveness. It doesn't just trap the one who wronged you. It infects you. It seeps into every bond that comes after, turning suspicion into habit and bitterness into identity. The betrayal of one man poisoned my vision of everyone, and here was my true karma. Not just my father's leaving, but my refusal to forgive. For years, I carried the wound like a banner, feeding the fire instead of letting it die. I thought I was protecting myself, but really, I was carrying a corpse on my shoulders. Every relationship I entered was touched by its stench. The betrayal was his, yes, but the chains were mine, forged every day I refused to let go. Unforgiveness works like a hidden tax. Every smile you receive, you doubt. Every act of kindness, you discount. Every promise, you expect to break. Tell me, how long can a heart keep paying interest on pain and still survive? It silently deducts peace from your account before you ever get to spend it. And the more you clutch your resentment, the more tomorrow is poisoned by yesterday. Here's the deeper truth. Forgiveness is not about excusing what someone did. It's about cutting the cord between their action and your future. To forgive is not to erase the wound. It's to stop the wound from writing every new chapter of your life. So if you think your suspicion is strength, pause. Often, what looks like protection is just fear wearing armor, and fear corrodes more than betrayal ever could. The day Mara left was not the day betrayal won. It was the day unforgiveness proved stronger than love. Practice for you. The next time anger or suspicion rises, pause and ask, am I facing the person in front of me, or am I still fighting the ghost of someone long gone? If it's the ghost, release it. Don't let yesterday's shadow dictate today's light. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the only antidote to poison. Reflection for you. Are you truly protecting yourself from being hurt? Or are you still chained to the shadow of the one who hurt you, letting resentment script the rest of your life? Forgiving others is saving your own future. Sign 5. The Mirror of Self. The fifth and most undeniable sign of karma is the mirror. Life always finds a way to return your own reflection, whether you like it or not. I once worked with a man who carried a certain reputation. Outwardly, he was magnetic, charming in meetings, always quick with a smile, skilled at winning people over with the right words at the right time. But beneath the surface, he had a habit that spread like a stain. He used people. At first it was subtle, asking for just a little help and never returning the favor. Then it grew larger, taking credit for work he hadn't done, shifting blame onto others when problems arose, climbing the ladder on the shoulders of those who trusted him. For years, he thought he was winning. On the outside, he looked unstoppable. But karma doesn't climb with you. It waits at the top. And when the time was right, the mirror appeared. He found himself under a new manager, someone who looked different on the outside, but who was, in essence, his own reflection. That manager praised him in public, but drained him in private. Used him, dismissed him, then used him again. Every excuse he had once spoken to others was now handed back to him word for word. Every trick he once played was turned against him. And he realized too late, this wasn't punishment from outside. This was his own shadow, returned in another body. It's like ordering karma on Amazon Prime. You don't know when it's coming. But one day there's a package on your desk. And surprise, it's you, just uglier. That is the mirror of karma. You don't always meet an enemy. You meet yourself. And that reflection is often harsher than any judge. But karma is not only cruel, it is precise and it is fair. Because while it returns selfishness with selfishness, it also returns kindness with abundance. I once knew a woman named Bera. She didn't hold high titles or chase applause, but she carried a rare gift. Whenever she entered a room, people felt safe. She remembered birthdays, cooked for neighbors, listened when friends were weary, gave without asking in return. To some, these were small gestures. To her, they were sacred. Year after year, she lived this way. And over time, the world answered her heart. People began to treasure her as if she were family. She had no shortage of love, not because she demanded it, but because she gave it away freely. Today, Bera is old. Her hair has turned silver, but her home is never silent. Friends drop by with meals, with flowers, with laughter that echoes into the night. Her table is always full, her evenings never lonely. Why? Because she never planted loneliness. She sowed warmth, and now she harvests warmth. That too is karma. Here's the truth. The world is always holding up a mirror. Sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, but always faithfully. And that mirror does not lie. It reflects not who you claim to be, but who you are when no one is watching. So ask yourself, if the world mirrored back to you exactly what you've been giving, what would you see? Would you be proud or ashamed? Would you meet a reflection you'd want to embrace, or one you'd run from? Karma doesn't strike like thunder. It reflects quietly, inevitably, and without favoritism. And when the mirror comes, you can't argue with it. You can only face it. Practice for you. Take 5 quiet minutes today and look at your reflection, not in the glass, but in your actions. Write down one habit you would be proud to see returned to you, and one habit you would never want mirrored back. Then choose carefully which seeds you will plant from this moment on. Reflection for you. Are you ready to face your mirror when it comes, or will you spend your life pretending it doesn't exist? Karma doesn't send you enemies. It sends you yourself. Karma's last lesson. So, what do we learn from these 5 silent signs? That karma is not lightning falling from the sky. It is quieter. It moves in whispers, behind forced smiles, in the erosion of what was once taken for granted. In the sleepless nights where guilt grows heavy, in the collapse of trust from within, and finally, in the mirror that no one can escape. At first, these truths may feel satisfying. We think, good, they'll pay for what they did. Life will catch them. And that is true. Life does balance the scales, but here's the deeper twist. Karma is not only theirs, it's ours. It's yours. It's mine. Because if we clutch anger, if we refuse to forgive, if we feed bitterness day after day, then we become the carriers of our own punishment. We live inside the very prisons we hoped karma would build for them. The betrayal was theirs, but the chains? Those can become ours, forged each time we let hatred dictate tomorrow. I had to learn this the hard way, not by watching others collapse, but by watching myself. I realized that my own wounds, left untreated, were shaping my future. And until I released them, I would keep repeating the same story. Different faces, same ending. So hear me clearly. Forgiveness is not a gift to those who wronged you. It is the rescue of your own future. It is not about erasing the past. It is about ending its rule over you. Practice for you. Tonight, give yourself 5 minutes of silence. Think of one person who wronged you. Don't justify them. Don't excuse them, but release them. Whisper softly, "You no longer own my tomorrow." That's not weakness. That's liberation. Reflection for you. Do you want to keep living as the victim of their story? Or step forward as the author of your own? And when you choose forgiveness, you rise. You evolve. You walk so deeply into peace that karma itself no longer needs to knock. Because you have already learned the lesson. That is the quiet victory, the one no one can take from you. If these 5 signs spoke to you, then you already know. The lesson wasn't just for them. It was for you. If you're walking this path of forgiveness, subscribe now. Not to add a number here, but to keep a light beside you. A daily reminder that every act of letting go is saving your future.